Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and you sad little pieces of furniture stuck in the theater of your own minds. Oh, don't worry. The show's about to begin. Now, I know what you're thinking, a joker. Why the serious topic? Why not, I don't know, blowing up a hospital? And to that I say, where's the fun in predictability? I'm here tonight to talk about something truly terrifying. Something that dissolves all the shiny, expensive masks we wear. I'm talking about a strong mindset. And why? Because a strong mind, my dears, makes those pathetic, self-obsessed, ego-gobbling narcissists, all vamped. They crumble like a cheap cracker under a well-placed boot. Now, let's have a little fun dissecting these paper tigers, shall we? I have 5 delectable secrets for you. Yes, the narcissist economy. It's such a deliciously pathetic system, isn't it? A closed loop of self-worship and desperate hunger. You see these beautiful, fragile souls, these narcissists. They don't breathe the same air as the rest of us stable folk. They certainly don't run on the simple, boring engine of self-respect or genuine human connection. Oh no, their entire, elaborate, shimmering facade is powered by a far more volatile substance, ATTENTION. It's their cheap, toxic gasoline, their very lifeblood, people. And it's not just any kind of attention that fills their tank, it's the specific, focused energy you direct toward them, these civilized people. They are like a cheap theater spotlight that can only stay on if the audience keeps shoving coins into the meter. Every gasp of admiration, every whisper of praise, every furious rebuttal, every tear of frustration, it's all currency. People, it's the precious fuel they need to maintain the illusion that they are, in fact, the most interesting, powerful, and utterly vital entity in the room. Think of the narcissist as having an enormous, gaping hole in the very center of their being, a vacuum where a soul should be. And they are forever trying to fill that void with external validation. They have no internal source of light or warmth, so they must constantly draw it from the poor, unsuspecting moths fluttering around them. They desperately need to see their distorted reflection in your eyes. If you look at them with admiration, it's a brilliant, intoxicating drug that reinforces their delusion of superiority. If you look at them with fear, they feel potent and controlling. And if you react with sheer, blazing outrage, that's a gourmet meal. Outrage means they matter enough to make you lose your cool. It proves their impact. When you react emotionally with passion, with anger, or with tears, you are simply handing them a hose for their colossal ego tank. You are giving them proof that their manipulative machinations work. But here's where the fun, the glorious mind-bending fun, comes in for the strong-minded individual. A truly strong mindset recognizes the simple, brutal fact your attention is currency. It is finite, it is valuable, and you are the only one who decides where to spend it. These civilized people, the moment you understand that your gaze, your emotional energy, and your reaction time are literally the fuel they need to exist, you gain absolute power over them. When you stop spending your currency on their drama, people, when you stop allowing your mind to be the echo chamber for their self-aggrandizing stories, people, something wonderful and catastrophic happens to the narcissist, their fuel light goes red. The moment you respond to their provocations with a blank stare, their boasting with a shrug, and their manufactured crisis with an indifferent, "That sounds like a you problem," their world starts to tilt. They get smaller. They get boring. The high-definition drama they thrive on devolves into a grainy, low-budget production starring just them, alone on an empty stage. They cannot generate their own energy. So when you refuse to supply it, the lights dim. They starve in the silent void you create. They desperately try to elicit a reaction. They turn up the volume on their antics, but the strong mind holds the line. That silence, that emotional disconnect, is their kryptonite. Because true strength doesn't scream back. True strength merely turns away and conserves its own precious energy for better things. They cease to be a magnificent, terrifying villain and simply become a pest, easily ignored. We move now from the currency of attention to the arsenal of the fragile ego. Because once you refuse to give them your gold, they start firing the big guns. The emotional manipulation bazooka. And believe me, they are experts at loading this thing. They poke, they prod, they whisper insidious suggestions. They twist the facts until they resemble a melting dally clock. They gaslight you until you question your own sanity. Then, when the gaslighting fails, they crank out the old standby, the guilt trip, making you feel responsible for their unhappiness, their failures, and the color of the sky on a Tuesday. But why? Why this relentless, exhausting assault on your internal landscape? Simple. They are looking for the vibration. They are casting out a line, hoping to feel the slightest tug that confirms they've found a soft spot. A vulnerable, exposed nerve ending, your anxiety, your sudden defensiveness, your hurt look. People, your attempt to rationally explain yourself against their irrationality. That's the vibration they crave. It tells them target acquired, emotional control established. They're masters of projection, dumping their own insecurity and self-loathing onto you. These civilized people, purely to see if you'll pick it up and carry it for them. If you start to feel anxious, confused, or desperately compelled to fix their emotional state, then congratulations, people, you've just become their emotional garbage disposal. And this, my friends, is where the strong mindset enters the ring, wearing its bespoke suit of armor. It is your bulletproof vest, custom tailored with the finest material available, pure, unadulterated self-worth. This vest isn't about becoming a zombie who feels nothing. No. It's about being aware of your feelings, acknowledging the venom they are spraying, but deciding that their feelings will simply not become your problem. You feel the irritation, the frustration, perhaps even a flash of anger, but you don't allow those feelings to dictate your action or your peace. It's about creating that magnificent, shimmering barrier of emotional invulnerability. I want you to truly visualize this. You are standing behind thick, soundproof glass. They are right on the other side. They can scream, they can pound their fists. They can contort their face into the most terrifying guilt, inducing pity, me, now mask they can muster. And what do you hear? nothing but a muffled, distant, pathetic whimper. Their theatrical performance loses all power when the sound is cut. You can watch the spectacle without being in the spectacle. This psychological distance is everything. It allows you to analyze their strategy. The pity-pout classic move, or the hyper criticism bomb. They must be feeling insecure today, without letting it breach your defenses. Your validation, your sense of being right and good and valuable must come from in here. It must be an internal, self-sustaining declaration. It must not, under any circumstances, be sourced from the ridiculous, chaotic, and fundamentally dishonest circus act out there. When you possess deep self-worth, their attempts to diminish you don't stick. They become harmless static electricity. You realize their criticism is just a projection of their own broken internal monologue. And you no longer feel the desperate need to defend yourself against their sickness. The vest works because you know who you are, regardless of the lies they try to sell you. And that, truly, is a beautiful, beautiful kind of power. Ah, splendid. The third key point, one of my absolute favorites because it's so deliciously boring. We've starved them of attention, and we've protected our emotional core. Now, we must make sure they simply lose interest. This, my little maniacs, is the glorious power of the gray rock. The power of the gray rock becoming boring. The narcissist, bless their shallow little hearts. People hates bland, they hate dull. They are high-octane drama queens who thrive on sparkle, shock, and constant emotional return on investment. They need color, they need noise, and they need resistance to feel alive. Pull. They are like a cheap spotlight that malfunctions when the batteries run low. When they are seeking interaction, they are hunting for a volatile, interesting, and ultimately flammable victim. However, must become the most exquisitely bland, unmoving people, gray piece of gravel ever to grace the psychological landscape. This is not about being rude. People, it's about being unresponsive. You give them nothing to grab onto. Your responses must be the conversational equivalent of a flat, dusty road that leads nowhere. No emotion, no enthusiasm, no new information, and absolutely no interesting angles for them to exploit. When the narcissist tries to bait you, perhaps with a petty slight about your clothes, or a subtle dig at your career, or a dramatic story about how they were wronged, you simply offer monosyllables. You use non-committal phrases like, or okay, or I see. You refuse to rise to the challenge. You refuse to defend yourself. You refuse to engage in the back, and forth they are desperate to start. Imagine they are a vicious little wind, trying to fan a tiny spark into a bonfire. Your job is to be the damp earth, snuffing out the possibility of a flame. They'll try to escalate, to poke harder, asking, well, don't you have anything to say about that? And your response is delivered with the emotional warmth of a glacier. Not particularly. They will be baffled. They will be frustrated. This lack of engagement throws their entire script into chaos. They expect a confrontation, a burst of tears, or a passionate defense. Any reaction at all? But when they get nothing but that steadfast, dull gray rock, They are faced with an insurmountable wall of boredom. They are looking around like a child who just popped a vibrant balloon and found nothing. Boredom is the ultimate sanitizer for their toxicity. They realize quickly that you are not worth the effort. They cannot feed on you because you offer no nutritional value to their ego. They will cast you aside, searching for a more colorful, more volatile, and ultimately more flammable victim. People. The strong mind understands that the fastest way to dispatch a predator is not to fight it, people, but to become utterly unappetizing. Become dull, become predictable, become gray rock, and watch them slink away in search of better drama. Key point number 4. Now we move from being dull to being fortified. Because the narcissist, people, despite being starved and bored by your newfound gray rock routine, will always view any sign of yourself, respect as a direct challenge, and that, my friends, these civilized people is why we need unbreakable boundaries. Unbreakable boundaries, the uncrossable line. You must understand that a narcissist does not view your boundaries, your personal lines in the sand, your standards for acceptable treatment, as simple fences designed to maintain healthy personal space. Oh, no, they view them as challenges to be conquered. To a narcissist, a boundary is an infuriating obstacle that stands between them and the complete, unchallenged fulfillment of their desires. They feel entitled to your time, your emotional energy, and your compliance, and they will test, prod, and sneak past any line you draw if they sense even the slightest weakness. A weak mind allows these lines to be blurred. It accepts the excuses, forgives the horn, time, violations, and eventually the boundaries fade, leaving the victim utterly exposed. This is not the strong mind's way. People. A strong mindset doesn't just set boundaries. It defends them like a lunatic protecting his last good joke. It's a non-negotiable, concrete wall, not a suggestion written in crayon. And the glorious, sharp edge of this defense is one word: consequence. When a narcissist crosses the line, when they violate your stated rule, be it disrespecting your time, people, engaging in verbal abuse after you told them to stop, or prying into your personal life, there must be a consequence. And I'm not talking about a threat, or a lecture, or a drawn-out debate about their motives. That's just more attention. I'm talking about an action, swift, silent, and non-negotiable. If the boundary is, if you yell at me, I will end the conversation, and they yell, you simply hang up the phone or walk out of the room. You don't scream back. You don't even say, I'm hanging up now because you yelled. You simply do it. You make the consequence a natural extension of the boundary violation, not an emotional reaction. This is how you teach them. You don't teach them by arguing with their twisted logic. You teach them by showing them the undeniable, unpleasant people, an immediate result of disrespecting your standards. Every time they cross the line, they lose access to something they want, be it your presence, your conversation, or your assistance. The strong mind understands that protecting your boundary is protecting your sanity. People, it is a declaration that your respect for yourself is a force greater than their fleeting need for control. You are establishing an undeniable truth. This line is uncrossable. And once that lesson sinks in, the hard, cold lesson of natural consequence, the narcissist realizes that trying to control you is simply too costly, too much work, and ultimately a waste of their precious, limited energy. They look for the path of least resistance, and the fortress of your unbreakable boundaries ensures that path leads straight away from you. 5. And now for the grand finale, the ultimate psychological trick, the one that makes all the previous steps coalesce into one magnificent, triumphant realization. We've cut off the fuel, deployed the emotional shield, used boredom as a repellent, and fortified our borders now for the coup de grace. See? The ultimate shift, focusing on your own show. Listen closely, because this is where you become truly immune. The ultimate shift that renders their entire existence moot, that transforms them from a central threat into mere atmospheric noise, is this. You stop watching their terrible one-man show. You stop being their audience, their critic, their supporting cast, and their stagehand. You realize with magnificent clarity that you are the star, people, the director, the stage designer, and the producer of your own magnificent, mad performance. A strong mindset is constantly innovating, building, creating, and focusing its powerful gaze inward. The narcissist desperately needs you to keep them relevant. They need you to talk about their latest injustice, analyze their toxic behavior, mourn their cruelty, people, or dedicate mental bandwidth to dissecting their complicated motives. They want you spinning your wheels, perpetually caught in the vortex of their drama. Because as long as you are focused on them, they have power. They are the axis around which your world revolves. But when you shift your focus, when you actively and deliberately dedicate your time and energy to your own growth, your own joy, your own next masterpiece, and your own fulfillment, the narcissist simply stops mattering. People, you become too busy to engage in their petty conflicts. Your goals become too high to be distracted by their low-level emotional skirmishes. Think about it. When you are absorbed in building an empire, launching a project, mastering a skill, or genuinely enjoying a peaceful moment, do you pause to worry about the dust bunnies under the couch? No. The dust bunnies are background noise. The narcissist becomes just that. A broken traffic light you drive right past on the way to a much more exciting destination. When your life is rich, complex, and deeply fascinating to you, their attempts to inject chaos feel pitifully small and ineffective. Their drama becomes the sound of a distant, annoying siren that you no longer feel compelled to investigate. People, they are the background static on a radio that's already playing your favorite song at full volume. The strong mind understands that to truly defeat the narcissist is not to fight them, but to make your life too magnificent, too complex, and too full of genuine joy to waste a single precious second worrying about their fragile little ego. You've graduated from their class, you've left their theater, and you've started the curtain call on your own stage. They are left alone, forever performing for an empty house. And that, my friends, is true glorious irrelevance.